As the sun reaches its peak in the sky, the day feels quieter, almost reflective. The samurai go about their routines, some sharpening their swords, others quietly speaking with comrades, and a few more engaging in personal rituals, all with the same focused purpose that has defined their lives. But you feel there's a shift happening, a subtle change in the atmosphere. The battle is not over. Perhaps in the way the samurai see it, the true battle is never over. It is always within them. You find yourself walking through the camp, taking in the scene with new eyes. The warriors' movements are graceful, but there is a new sense of peace in the way they interact with each other. Gone is the sharp edge of tension that once hung over their every action. They have learned to embrace stillness as much as they embrace action. And this balance, this ability to act with both purpose and peace, is the essence of what makes them so extraordinary. Off to the side, you notice a warrior sitting by himself, his legs crossed in a meditative pose. This is not just any warrior, though. He is one of the older samurai, a veteran who has seen countless battles. You approach quietly, not wanting to disturb his practice, and watch as he breathes in deeply, his eyes closed. His posture is impeccable, his hands resting gently on his knees. There is something deeply calming about him, an aura of wisdom and acceptance that seems to radiate from his being. You watch for a while, observing his practice. He is not focusing on any specific technique or stance, but instead on his breath. Each inhale and exhale slow and deliberate. He is emptying his mind of everything except the present moment. This is meditation, a practice many samurai use not just for relaxation, but for clarity of mind. It's a way of centering oneself in the chaos of the world. For the samurai, meditation is not a luxury or an escape, but a necessary tool to remain balanced and ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. As you sit quietly beside him, you begin to understand that this moment of stillness is just as much a part of the samurai's preparation as anything else they do. Their entire lives are dedicated to this kind of balance. Their food, their rituals, their philosophy, all of these practices come together to form a warrior who is not just prepared for battle, but for life itself. After several moments, the samurai opens his eyes slowly, as if emerging from a deep trance. He smiles faintly, as though acknowledging the small victory of maintaining his focus in the midst of the world's noise. He stands up, stretches, and then turns to you. His expression is calm, but there is a quiet intensity in his gaze. He doesn't speak at first, but there is an understanding in his eyes, a shared moment of recognition that you both are aware of the deeper truths that bind the samurai's way of life. Balance is not something you find, he says quietly, as if the words are simply a reminder. It is something you create every day in every action. His words hang in the air, profound and simple, and you realize that this is the key to the samurai's way of life. It is not the sword or the food or the rituals alone that make them warriors. It is their constant pursuit of balance, their commitment to creating harmony within themselves and the world around them. This balance is not a destination, but a journey. It's a journey of continuous refinement, a journey that requires the courage to confront oneself and the wisdom to know when to act and when to pause. The warrior gives a small nod, acknowledging your understanding, and then walks off into the camp, leaving you to reflect on his words. You feel a sense of calm settle within you, a quiet sense of purpose that seems to match the peaceful rhythm of the camp. There is no rush, no urgency. Everything is unfolding as it should. As the day winds down and the sun sets over the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, you realize that this is the true strength of the samurai. It is not in the speed of their blade, the fierceness of their battle cries, or the glory of their victories. It is in their unwavering commitment to the path they have chosen, the path of balance, the path of honor, the path of constant growth. The samurai know that the journey is never truly finished. Even in times of peace, they continue to practice, to learn, to improve. Every meal, every lesson, every quiet moment of reflection is an opportunity to refine themselves. They are not just warriors. They are students of life, always evolving, always seeking to become the best versions of themselves. As the camp settles into a peaceful quiet, the warriors retire for the night, their faces serene and their minds calm. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new lessons, but the samurai will face them with the same quiet strength and purpose that has defined their lives. Their journey is far from over, and neither is yours. The lessons of the samurai, their commitment to balance, to growth and to honor, are timeless, and they remain with you as the night falls. As the first light of dawn breaks through the dense canopy of trees, gently washing over the camp in soft golden hues, the samurai, even as they stir from their rest, maintain the same composure and grace that have defined them throughout their journey. You can see the rhythm of their movements, the quiet determination that has become second nature. It is another day, and with it comes another opportunity for the samurai to refine their mind, body, and spirit. As they have done every day of their lives, the camp is still, and yet you can feel the anticipation in the air. It's not the anticipation of battle, though that is ever present in their minds. No, this anticipation is different. This is the anticipation of a new lesson, a new opportunity to grow and improve. You watch as a group of warriors gathers near the center of the camp, their postures impeccable, their focus unwavering. In front of them, standing with quiet authority, is a master, a senior samurai who has dedicated his life not only to battle, but to the passing of knowledge. The master begins to speak, his voice steady and filled with quiet strength. As he talks, the warriors listen attentively, absorbing every word. Today's lesson isn't about swordplay or combat strategy. Today's lesson is about the heart of the samurai, the core values that underpin the Bushido code. Honor, courage, loyalty, and humility. The master speaks of these values as if they are not just abstract concepts, but living, breathing forces that guide the samurai in every aspect of their lives. You must understand, the master says, his voice low but firm, that the warrior's path is not one of conquest alone. It is the path of understanding, of maintaining the highest ideals no matter the circumstances. Our true battle is not against the enemy, but against the darkness within ourselves. The warriors nod, their expressions solemn and respectful. You can see the depth of their understanding. They know that to be a samurai is not just to wield a sword, but to embody the values that shape their actions, their decisions, and their interactions with the world. And yet, as the master continues, he speaks of another lesson, one that is often overlooked even among the most disciplined warriors, the importance of compassion. To understand your enemy is to understand yourself, he continues. To fight without hatred, without cruelty, is the true mark of a warrior. Remember, the strength of a warrior lies not only in his sword, but in his ability to remain true to the values of Bushido, even in the face of hardship and adversity. The lesson is profound, and you can feel its weight in the air. These are not just words to the samurai, they are the foundation of their existence. To fight with honor, to fight with dignity, to fight with compassion, these are the true tests of a warrior's character. And yet, the lesson goes deeper. It is not enough to simply embody these values on the battlefield. The samurai must live them every day. It is in the smallest acts, in how they treat their fellow warriors, how they interact with others, and how they approach the world, that these values are truly tested. The master concludes his lesson with a final simple statement. The true warrior is the one who has conquered himself. With that, the samurai bowed deeply, acknowledging the wisdom that has been shared. They do not need to say anything. Their actions speak volumes. They understand that this lesson is not one that can be learned in a single day, but one that must be practiced, refined, and carried with them in everything they do. As the warriors disperse, you follow one samurai who has lingered a little longer than the others. He's walking slowly as if contemplating the lesson, and you can see a quiet intensity in his eyes. He pulls out a small wooden practice sword and begins to perform a series of slow, deliberate movements. Each strike is precise, each block a fluid, calculated response. It's not about speed or strength, it's about control, about maintaining a steady focus that matches the values he's just learned. With each movement, it's clear that he is not just practicing to perfect his technique, but to reinforce the connection between his mind, body, and spirit. Watching him practice, you begin to see the samurai's journey in a new light. Every action, every meal, every lesson, every moment of rest is an opportunity to refine and strengthen the self. The samurai are not merely warriors, they are students of life, always learning, always evolving. They fight not just for honor, but for the wisdom that comes from a lifetime of commitment to their path. As you continue to watch the warrior practice, you realize that his journey, like the journey of every samurai, is one of continuous growth. There is no end to this path, no moment when they can rest on their laurels and claim they have achieved perfection. The true challenge of the samurai is to keep pushing forward, to keep improving, and to keep embodying the ideals they hold dear, not just in battle but in every aspect of their lives. The warrior finishes his practice wiping the sweat from his brow and pauses to catch his breath. There is no sense of triumph or arrogance in his expression, only quiet satisfaction. He has not fought a battle, nor has he won a great victory. But in his eyes, you can see the understanding that comes with mastery. Mastery not of the sword, but of himself. The moon has risen high in the sky now, casting an eerie glow over the camp. The air is still, the only sounds being the soft rustle of the trees and the faint crackling of the fire. In this tranquil moment, you feel the weight of everything. The samurai have been through the battles, the meals, the rituals. But you know deep down that this peace is fleeting. The samurai's journey is never truly over. As the night deepens, another crucial element of their preparation begins, not for battle, but for the next day. They are warriors, yes, but they are also students, and their learning never stops. As you observe the warriors moving through the camp, you spot one who stands apart from the others. He's sitting under the shadow of a large tree, his sword resting beside him. But instead of polishing it or reflecting on the day's events, he's holding a small scroll, reading it carefully by the firelight. You realize that this scroll is not just a simple text. It's a book of wisdom, filled with teachings that have been passed down for generations. For the samurai, knowledge is just as important as physical strength. The warrior reads slowly, his eyes scanning each word with great focus. His posture remains still and relaxed, but his mind is clearly sharp. This isn't just about reading, for the sake of reading. It's about absorbing the philosophy that has shaped the samurai way of life. This warrior is studying the writings of past masters, absorbing their teachings, and reinforcing the principles that guide his every action. You can see how deeply this ritual has become ingrained in the samurai's life. They are not only physical warriors, but intellectual warriors as well. Their swords may cut through flesh, but their minds must be just as sharp. These scrolls, filled with wisdom on strategy, honor, and discipline, serve as a constant reminder of their purpose. As the warrior continues to read, you understand that his battle isn't just against external forces. It's against ignorance, against complacency, and against any force that would hinder his pursuit of self-mastery. The samurai's pursuit of knowledge is not a passive act. Every scroll they read, every piece of wisdom they absorb, is an opportunity to grow, to refine their character, and to become more than just fighters. It's about becoming masters of the mind, not just the body. In fact, many samurai believed that true victory came not from defeating an enemy, but from the victory over oneself, over one's own doubts, fears, and weaknesses. As the warrior finishes reading the scroll, he rolls it up and carefully places it back in his bag. His face remains calm, but there's a quiet intensity in his eyes, an intensity that speaks to a lifetime of learning and self-discipline. Without a word, he stands up, stretches, and returns to the rest of the camp. There is no fanfare, no dramatic gestures, just a quiet acknowledgement of the work that lies ahead, the work of constantly refining oneself. You realize now that for the samurai, learning is a lifelong journey. They do not stop at any one achievement or victory. Whether they are on the battlefield or in the quiet solitude of the camp, they are always seeking growth, always seeking knowledge. Every scroll, every teaching, every ritual is part of the continuous process of becoming the best version of themselves. As you move deeper into the camp, you notice that others are engaging in similar practices. Some are studying, some are meditating, and some are simply reflecting on their experiences. The idea of never stopping, of always striving for improvement, is embedded in everything they do. There is no sense of finality for the samurai. The path of self-improvement is an endless one, and yet there is something deeply humbling in this. The samurai, with all their strength and skill, remain students, not only of the physical arts, but of the mind and spirit as well. This commitment to growth, to continuous learning, is perhaps what makes them so formidable. Their strength is not just in their swords or their bodies, but in their minds. And that strength, honed over years of study and practice, is what allows them to face the chaos of battle and emerge with a sense of honor and purpose. As the night wears on, you find yourself reflecting on the journey you've just witnessed. The samurai's approach to life, their food, their rituals, their constant learning, is a testament to their unwavering commitment to their way of life. Every action, every moment, is infused with purpose. They are not just warriors in battle. They are warriors in life. Their struggle is not against an enemy outside themselves, but against the distractions, the weaknesses, and the limitations within. The samurai's path is not an easy one. It is one of constant discipline, constant reflection, and constant improvement. But in this discipline there is peace, and in this peace there is power. The samurai do not fight just to win. They fight to live honorably, to live with purpose, and to be masters of their own destiny. As the night wears on, the samurai's camp grows quieter, the sounds of distant chatter and fire crackling becoming less frequent. Most of the warriors are deep in their rest now, their bodies physically drained from the battle, but you sense that their minds remain alert, always vigilant. Even in sleep, the samurai carry with them the discipline and focus that has defined their entire existence. It's this perpetual state of readiness, this constant alignment between mind, body, and spirit that sets them apart. And yet, despite all their focus and strength, something unusual catches your attention in the quiet of the night. Off to the side of the camp, you spot a warrior sitting by himself, his posture straight but relaxed. His attention is not on his weapon or his armor, but on a small wooden box in front of him. He opens the box carefully and takes out a small piece of tea leaves, which he proceeds to place into a nearby teapot. You realize that this is another moment of ritual, but it's different from the more formal tea ceremonies you've seen earlier. This is an intimate moment, a personal act of reflection. The warrior adds hot water to the teapot, and the steam rises gently. You can tell that this is not just about the tea itself, it's about the time he's taking to focus inward. As the tea brews, the samurai closes his eyes for a moment, allowing the warmth of the steam to wash over his face, his hands steady and deliberate as they move. This is not just a warrior preparing for battle. This is a warrior preparing for life. The tea, simple and humble, is a means of grounding himself once again, of finding peace in the chaos of his existence. As the tea brews and the fragrance fills the air, you realize that for the samurai, this ritual is as important as any battle. Preparation. The act of making tea, of focusing on something as simple as boiling water and steeping leaves, is a way of centering oneself. It's a moment of mindfulness, a moment to slow down and reconnect with the present. The tea is not just a beverage. It's a reminder that life too should be taken one moment at a time, a lesson that many modern warriors, both literal and metaphorical, would do well to remember. The warrior slowly pours the tea into a small bowl, the steam rising in delicate tendrils. He takes a deep breath, savoring the warmth of the drink, allowing himself a moment of respite before the next challenge arrives. And as he drinks, his face softens. It's a fleeting moment of peace, but it is profound nonetheless. The tea, like the meals he eats before battle, serves as a reminder of balance, of staying grounded in the face of turmoil. It's not about escaping the demands of the world, but about embracing them with clarity and purpose. You stand quietly, observing this ritual, and realize that the samurai do not compartmentalize their lives. Every act, whether it's preparing for battle, eating, or making tea, is infused with the same level of intent and discipline. There is no division between the warrior and the person. The act of drinking tea isn't just about the tea itself, it's about how it connects to their larger purpose. The same could be said about the food they eat, the rituals they perform, and the battles they fight. It's all a manifestation of their philosophy, the unity of mind, body, and spirit. As the warrior finishes his tea, he sets the bowl down gently. His actions are calm, measured, and respectful, as if the moment itself deserves reverence. He closes the box and places it carefully beside him, taking a moment to bow his head slightly, a gesture of gratitude, not just for the tea, but for the time to reflect, to ground himself in something simple yet profound. Then, without haste, he rises, his body and mind once again aligned. He moves back into the camp, joining his fellow warriors as they continue their own quiet moments of reflection, knowing that tomorrow will bring new challenges and new opportunities for growth. As the night continues to stretch on, the camp returns to its peaceful state. The samurai may have fought hard today, but their journey isn't over. The next battle, the next test, is always on the horizon. And yet, in this quiet moment, you understand something fundamental. The samurai's greatest strength lies not in their ability to fight, but in their ability to find peace in the midst of everything else. Whether through tea, food, or simple reflection, the samurai are masters of their own lives, and their journey is one of continuous refinement. The food, the rituals, the tea, the battle, all of these are interconnected. For the samurai, it's never just about the physical act of eating, fighting, or resting. It's about how these actions shape their character, refine their spirit, and help them to stay true to their code. It's about preparation, not just for battle, but for life itself. As the final echoes of battle fade and the samurai begin to regroup, there's a quiet hum in the air. The tension that filled the battlefield has dissolved into something deeper, a moment of reflection. The warriors who fought so fiercely now stand silently in the aftermath, their faces marked with exhaustion, but their spirits unbroken. They have won, but not just because of their physical strength. No, it's their inner strength, a strength built upon years of training, meditation, rituals, and food. These elements have molded them into more than just fighters. They are guardians of a way of life. As you walk through the camp once again, you notice something important. The samurai are not immediately celebrating their victory. Instead, they are preparing once again for what comes next. As they always do, there is no moment of complacency, no time to rest on their laurels. The samurai understand that every battle is just a part of the greater journey, and that their true strength lies not in defeating an enemy, but in mastering themselves. One warrior, his face still marked with the dust of battle, quietly sits by the campfire. He's not eating or drinking yet. Instead, he's performing an almost meditative ritual. He pulls out a small piece of paper, which contains another sutra, a reminder of his path. As he reads it aloud, you realize that this is not a prayer for victory, but a prayer of gratitude. Gratitude for the opportunity to live, to fight, and to continue in his journey. It's a moment of profound humility, and you begin to understand that the samurai don't see themselves as above others, nor do they revel in the idea of dominance or superiority. Their strength lies in their ability to stay grounded, to remain connected to their code, no matter what the world throws at them. Victory isn't about the pride of defeating an opponent. It's about the quiet satisfaction of knowing that they've remained true to themselves and their way of life. The warrior finishes reciting the sutra and folds the paper back into his armor. He slowly rises, his movements deliberate and calm, as if the battle has not rattled him. He's not acting out of victory or defeat, but out of quiet resolve. A resolve to continue, to never stop striving for the same balance that has always been at the core of the samurai way. As you move away from the fire, you can hear other warriors engaging in similar practices. Some are sitting in stillness while others are washing their armor or carefully sharpening their swords. There's a quiet but unmistakable sense of order in the chaos, a sense that the samurai are always in control, always moving towards something greater. Even in moments of apparent rest, it's a reminder that the samurai do not see themselves as warriors only when they are fighting. They are warriors in every moment, in every meal they eat, in every ritual they perform, in every word they speak. Their battle is not just on the battlefield, but in their daily lives, in their commitment to self-mastery, to balance, and to their code. As the camp begins to settle down for the night, you take a moment to reflect. The samurai have fought and won, but their journey is far from over. In fact, the battle for them is a never-ending process. Every day is a battle of self-discipline, of maintaining balance, and of remaining true to the code that defines them. They are not fighting for glory, for riches, or for power. They are fighting to uphold their principles, to honor their ancestors, and to protect the way of life that they have sworn to defend. This is where food, too, plays a critical role in their journey. After the battle, you watch as a warrior sits with a simple meal, a small bowl of rice and some pickled vegetables. It's not much, but to him it is everything. It's a chance to nourish his body, to reconnect with the earth and to reflect on the journey that has brought him here. As he eats, you realize that for the samurai, eating is never just about filling the stomach. It's an opportunity to slow down, to reconnect with the purpose behind their actions. Every bite is a reminder of their discipline, their connection to the earth, and the responsibility they carry as protectors of a tradition that transcends time. The food is simple, but the act of eating it is profound. It's a moment of mindfulness, a chance to take stock of the day and prepare for whatever comes next. You see the same ritual repeated throughout the camp. Some samurai eat in silence, while others talk quietly among themselves. They share their experiences, reflect on the battles, and offer words of encouragement. It's a moment of peace after the storm, and it's clear that these simple acts of nourishment and connection are just as important as the battle itself. As the night deepens and the warriors settle into rest, you understand something essential. The samurai's journey is not defined by any single battle or victory. It's defined by their commitment to their principles, their continuous effort to refine their mind and body, and their dedication to the path of honor, no matter how difficult it may be. Their food, their rituals, their philosophies, they are all part of this ongoing process, a process that never ends. Never ends. As the warriors move out of the camp and into the early morning mist, you can't help but reflect on how much has unfolded in such a short time. The camp is no longer filled with the clattering of weapons or the preparation for battle. Instead, the samurai are quietly focused, walking with a quiet purpose that seems to resonate with the very rhythm of the earth beneath them. You follow them for a while, noticing that their pace is deliberate, their movements flowing with a quiet grace that seems almost otherworldly. There's something about the way they move, something that sets them apart from ordinary soldiers. It's not just the years of training or the deadly skill with their swords. It's their complete mastery of themselves, body, mind, and spirit. As they approach the battlefield once more, something shifts in the air. The atmosphere grows thick with expectation. The warriors are preparing themselves not just for combat, but for something deeper, something spiritual. The rituals they follow aren't just about surviving or defeating an enemy. They're about embracing their fate, understanding the delicate balance between life and death. Every movement they make, every breath they take, is infused with this understanding. At the edge of the battlefield, before the sounds of war break the silence, you spot a samurai standing alone. His hands are folded in front of him, his head bowed slightly. This moment is not about readiness for physical battle. It's about the mental and spiritual battle that takes place within. You realize that the samurai, even in the midst of conflict, never lose their sense of calm. They understand that to truly fight, they must first conquer themselves. You see him pull out a small slip of paper, neatly folded. He unfurls it slowly, revealing a sutra, a spiritual prayer or verse that many samurai would recite before battle. The sutra serves not just as a prayer for victory, but as a reminder of the deeper purpose behind their actions. To the samurai, every battle, every fight, is a reflection of something much larger than themselves. It's a test of honor, of discipline, and of the spirit. As he recites the sutra quietly, you notice that his expression remains unchanged. There is no anxiety, no fear, only calm determination. The warrior is at peace with himself, and in that moment, you understand something fundamental. The samurai are warriors not just because of their skill with a blade, but because of their ability to maintain peace within themselves, even as they prepare for the chaos of battle. The samurai's connection to food, ritual, and philosophy comes together in moments like these. It's not just about the nourishment of the body, it's about the nourishment of the soul. In the same way they approach their meals with reverence, they approach the battlefield with the same focused intent. Each battle, each fight, is a part of their spiritual journey, a journey that is never solely about the external enemy, but about the internal struggle as well. As the sutra is completed, the samurai folds the paper once again, tucking it carefully into his armor. He takes a deep breath, his eyes now focused on the horizon. The time has come. The final preparation is over. The mental, spiritual, and physical work has been done. Now it's time to act. You follow the samurai as they move toward the front lines, their pace unwavering. As they march, you can feel the weight of their purpose. They are not merely soldiers. They are protectors of a code, of a way of life that stretches back through the centuries. They are the embodiment of the Bushido code, a code that values honor, respect, and self-discipline above all else. And yet, as they prepare for battle, it's clear that the samurai do not see themselves as invincible. They are aware of the uncertainty that lies ahead, the possibility of death, the unpredictability of war. But in this awareness there is strength. The samurai understand that the only thing they can truly control is themselves, their actions, their decisions, and their response to the world around them. As the first wave of battle cries echoes across the field, the samurai charge forward, their swords raised high. But even in the heat of combat, you can still see the calmness in their eyes, the focus in their movements. They move with a purpose, each strike precise, each action deliberate. And even as they face the chaos of battle, they are still connected to the rituals and the philosophy that have guided them all their lives. The battle itself is intense, the clash of swords, the shouts of warriors, the dust rising in the air. Yet through it all the samurai remain unwavering. It's as if they are not just fighting for survival, but for the very essence of who they are. Each sword strike, each movement is an extension of their beliefs, their honor, and their way of life. They are not just fighting to defeat their enemies, they are fighting to uphold the code that defines them. As the battle draws to a close and the dust begins to settle, you realize that the samurai are not only survivors of the battlefield, but also stewards of a tradition that transcends time. Their approach to food, their rituals, and their unwavering focus on their spiritual path has shaped them into warriors unlike any other. It's a journey that never truly ends, because for the samurai, the battle is always within. Their legacy is one of balance, honor, and discipline. And though the battlefield may quiet and the warriors rest, the spirit of the samurai lives on, embodied in every practice, every meal, and every step they take. The night settles in with an eerie stillness, and you can feel the weight of the day's events lingering in the air. The camp is quiet now, the sounds of swords clinking and the faint murmur of voices almost completely drowned by the rhythmic crackling of the fire. Yet as the warriors rest, one question continues to linger in your mind. After all the food, the rituals, the focus, what comes next for the samurai? How do they continue day after day in a cycle of preparation, battle, and reflection? You're soon reminded that for the samurai, this cycle is endless, part of a greater philosophy that governs every aspect of their lives. Even as they sleep, they are not truly resting. They are replenishing not just their bodies, but their spirits and their minds. Every moment, even those of rest, is a chance for the samurai to connect to their higher purpose. And it all begins anew at the break of dawn. As the first light of morning seeps through the trees, the camp comes to life once again. The warriors begin to stir, moving slowly, as if they're still in a meditative state, easing into the day with the same calm focus that defined their evening. The sun has barely risen, but the ritual of the morning is already underway. One by one, the samurai stand up and gather their gear, their movements deliberate and precise, as though each action is part of a larger dance, a dance of discipline, honor, and continuous self-improvement. And then, you see it. A warrior, his hands steady, pulling out a small bundle of herbal medicine from his bag. You're intrigued by the herbs. You've seen them before, but never in this context. He begins to grind them with a mortar and pestle, mixing them with water. These herbs, you learn, aren't meant for healing wounds as you might expect. Instead, they are meant to enhance focus and clarity. The samurai have long used herbs in their daily rituals, not just as remedies for sickness, but as tools for mental and spiritual clarity. As the warrior drinks the mixture, you notice the same sense of calm and determination in his face that you saw the night before. These herbs, though modest in appearance, serve a powerful function. They help to center the samurai, bringing clarity and focus to their minds before the day begins. In many ways, these herbal mixtures are no different from the food they eat. They are part of the larger process of preparation, of ensuring that the samurai is ready for whatever lies ahead. The herbal drink is just one of many small rituals that the samurai follow throughout the day. It's easy to see how these repeated acts of focus and mindfulness shape the way they approach their battles and their lives. Every meal, every drink, every moment of reflection is an opportunity to reinforce their commitment to their way of life. It's all connected: food, ritual, philosophy, and action. As the day unfolds, you realize that for the samurai, this connection between the physical and the spiritual is not something that can be separated. Their food, their rituals, and their daily practices are all part of a greater whole. It's not just about surviving or winning battles. It's about living with integrity, staying true to their code, and finding balance in everything they do. And that's what makes the samurai so powerful. It's not their swordsmanship or their physical strength, though those are certainly important. It's their ability to maintain focus, to stay grounded in their traditions, and to find strength in the smallest of actions. Whether it's eating a meal, drinking herbal tea, or polishing their swords, every moment is an opportunity to align themselves with their higher purpose. As you sit by the fire, watching the samurai go through their routines with quiet discipline, you can't help but feel a sense of admiration. There is a purity to their way of life, a simplicity that runs deep, and yet it's so incredibly powerful. In a world that often values speed, success, and instant gratification, the samurai remind us that true strength lies not in rushing through life, but in taking each step with intention, patience, and focus. You reflect on the meals they've prepared, simple yet profound. The rice, the fish, the herbs, the pickles, each dish was designed not just to fill their bellies, but to prepare them for the challenges of the day ahead. Every meal was a ritual, a way of aligning their body and mind for the demands of battle. But more than that, the food was a reflection of their philosophy: balance, focus, and connection to something greater than themselves. As the warriors finish their morning rituals and prepare to leave camp once again, you realize that the journey of the samurai is far more than just a physical one. It is a journey of the mind and spirit, a journey that requires continuous reflection, continuous preparation, and a deep commitment to one's purpose. The food, the rituals, and the philosophy all come together to create a warrior who is not just prepared for battle, but prepared for life itself. Prepared for life. As the battle slowly comes to an end, and the last remnants of the conflict dissipate into the evening air, you find yourself standing in the quiet aftermath, watching the warriors return to their camp. The atmosphere is far from jubilant. The samurai are not celebrating victory with loud cheers or boisterous revelry. Instead, there's a profound silence among them, a silence that speaks volumes. It's as if, even in their moment of triumph, they know that the true essence of victory lies not in the clash of swords or the number of enemies defeated, but in the way they lived and fought. It's a humbling thought. And as you follow them back to camp, you realize that the rituals, the food, and the philosophies that have guided them up until now don't just disappear after the battle ends. No, these practices are ingrained in them. This is their way of life. You observe a warrior who, though fatigued and covered in dirt from the battle, sits down at a small campfire with a quiet grace. He removes his helmet and places it beside him, then opens a small pouch and pulls out a handful of dried fish. As he eats, he seems to reflect, each bite not as a simple act of nourishment, but as part of a greater process of healing. It's almost as if food is a form of meditation, a way for him to recalibrate his mind and body after the chaos of battle. There's no rush to his movements, no frantic need to fill his stomach. Just a calm, deliberate action, the same deliberate calmness he had before battle. As you watch this, something becomes clearer to you. The samurai's relationship with food is not one of indulgence or even necessity, but one of ritual and reflection. The food they eat, no matter how simple, becomes an extension of their training. Every meal, every bite, is an opportunity to realign themselves, to honor their ancestors, and to remind themselves of their purpose. The dried fish is a symbol of survival, yes, but it's also a symbol of their ability to endure, to persist, to continue their path with strength and resilience. Even in times of victory, the samurai don't let their guard down. They don't celebrate in excess or lose themselves in the moment. Instead, they honor the process, the tradition, and the ongoing journey of their lives. Their meals, as unassuming as they might appear, are part of that journey, an essential element that keeps them grounded. And in a way, you realize this is the true strength of the samurai, their ability to maintain balance, to stay connected to their roots, even in the face of war and victory, is what sets them apart. As the samurai finish their meals, there's another ritual you see play out in the camp, one that's not about food, but about the body. Several warriors gather to polish their swords, each stroke a careful act of restoration. It's a process that requires patience, precision, and mindfulness. As they work, you realize that this act of polishing the sword is not just about keeping the blade sharp. It's about honoring the weapon, about maintaining its purpose and power. It's an act of respect not just for the sword, but for the samurai's way of life. It's a ritual that demands focus, patience, and reverence, qualities that are embedded in everything they do. Watching the samurai care for their swords reminds you of something important. Their life is one of continuous preparation, continuous refinement. Whether it's their weapons, their food, or their spirits, there's always something to maintain, something to perfect. There's never a moment where they let go of their commitment to excellence. Even in their downtime, in moments that seem insignificant to the outside world, the samurai are constantly working to stay sharp, to stay focused, and to stay true to their way of life. And yet you can't help but notice that there's something quietly powerful about it all. The samurai's attention to detail, their reverence for food, their respect for their swords. All these things come together to create a warrior who is so much more than just a fighter. They are thinkers, philosophers, and spiritual practitioners, all bound by a code that transcends the physical realm. Their strength is not just in their ability to fight, but in their ability to maintain balance, to stay grounded in their beliefs, and to remain steadfast in their purpose. The rituals around food, in particular, take on a new significance as you reflect on them. Food was never just about refueling or satisfying hunger. It was a key part of the samurai's spiritual practice, a means of connecting to their ancestors and their traditions. Their meals weren't just practical necessities. They were an embodiment of the samurai philosophy, the balance between strength and serenity, between action and reflection. Now, as you watch the camp settle down for the night, with the last embers of the fire flickering out, you feel a sense of quiet satisfaction. The samurai have completed their battle, and yet, their journey is far from over. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new battles, both physical and mental. But for tonight, the food, the rituals, and the deep connection to their traditions have prepared them for whatever comes next. As the warriors drift off to sleep, the soft sounds of the camp fade into the night. The lessons they've learned and the rituals they've practiced will continue to guide them, just as they always have. And perhaps in some way their journey is a reminder to us all. Strength doesn't just come from the body, it comes from the mind, from the spirit, and from the choices we make every day in everything we do. The sounds of war drums reverberate through the air as the samurai march toward the battlefield, their swords gleaming in the sunlight, their faces as calm as the stillness before a storm. But you know that beneath that calm exterior lies a warrior spirit, a powerful energy forged not just by physical training, but by an entire way of life, by rituals that go beyond combat and extend into everything they do. As you follow their march, something occurs to you. You've just witnessed the final steps in a deeply philosophical and spiritual process. And now, the last piece of the puzzle falls into place. You're standing at the edge of the battlefield, watching the samurai prepare for the moment of truth. But there's one more food-related ritual to explore, and it's one that might surprise you. Among the warriors, you see an older samurai pulling a small pouch from his belt. He opens it carefully, revealing a handful of salt. At first, it seems like an odd thing to carry into battle, but there's more to salt than meets the eye. For centuries, salt has been a sacred substance in many cultures, revered for its ability to preserve and protect. For the samurai, salt was no different. It wasn't just a seasoning, it was a protector, a symbolic shield that could ward off evil spirits and bad luck. Before stepping onto the battlefield, many samurai would sprinkle salt over themselves, or onto the ground around them, as a ritual of purification. The salt was meant to protect them from harm, to purify their spirit, and to ensure that they entered battle free of negative energy. The idea that salt could purify isn't as strange as it seems. In fact, in many cultures, salt is seen as a way of cleansing, of removing impurities, and for the samurai this wasn't just superstition, it was an important part of their mental and spiritual preparation. Salt symbolized the warrior's connection to the earth, to their ancestors and to their duty. It was an element of protection, but also of respect. Respect for the traditions that had come before them, for the spirits of those who had fought and died in battle, and for the life they were about to give. As you watch the older samurai carefully sprinkle the salt and bow his head in silent reverence, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the ritual. It's more than just a small act. It's a profound gesture of respect and mindfulness, a way for the samurai to stay grounded, even in the face of death. This final ritual, this humble act of sprinkling salt, serves as a reminder that the samurai understood their place in the larger universe, that they were not just warriors, but protectors of a way of life, keepers of honor and guardians of tradition. With the salt ritual complete, the samurai stand up, adjusting their armor and preparing their weapons. They are ready, but not just because they've eaten well or practiced their sword techniques. They are ready because their minds are clear, their spirits are grounded, and their bodies are fortified. They are not just entering battle as mere soldiers. They are entering with a sense of purpose, with an awareness of the deep traditions that shape them. As the samurai line up and begin to move toward the front lines, you realize that food has played an essential role in every step of their journey. From the simple bowls of rice to the pickled vegetables, the tea, the sweet dumplings, and even the salt, each food choice, each ritual, has been about more than just sustenance. It's been about preparation, about aligning the mind, body, and spirit for the ultimate test. The samurai don't just fight for victory. They fight for their honor, for the honor of their ancestors, and for the greater good of their way of life. The battle begins, and the air is filled with the clash of swords and the cries of warriors. But as the chaos unfolds around you, you can't help but hold on to the profound realization that the samurai were not just warriors of the body. They were warriors of the spirit. They fought with their minds as much as with their swords. They were warriors who understood that true strength comes from within, from the rituals and the food that nourished not just their bodies but their souls. In the midst of the battle, as you look around at the warriors moving with purpose, you realize something even more significant. The food they ate, the rituals they followed, and the discipline they adhered to were all reflections of something larger than themselves, something that transcended the battlefield. The samurai didn't just fight for the sake of fighting. They fought to honor their traditions, to uphold the values that had been passed down to them. Each meal, each act, each battle was a continuation of a legacy that had been carefully preserved through centuries. The battle rages on, but in the chaos, there's a quiet understanding that lingers. The samurai's strength isn't just in their swordsmanship. It's in their belief system, their rituals, and the deep connection they have to the traditions that guide them. Food, as simple as it may seem, has played an essential role in shaping this incredible warrior class. It has been a tool, a weapon, and a source of strength. A source that has empowered the samurai not only to fight, but to live with honor, integrity, and discipline. As the day winds down and the battlefield becomes a distant memory, you stand in awe of the samurai's journey. From their meals to their rituals, each part of their preparation was meticulously designed to ensure they were at their best, not just as fighters, but as individuals grounded in their beliefs. And while the dust of battle settles, the legacy of the samurai remains clear. The true strength of a warrior is not just in the sword they wield, but in the heart and mind that guide it. The battlefield looms in the distance, the air now thick with anticipation. But before the clash of swords and the sounds of battle fill the air, you notice something surprising, a moment of quiet among the samurai. They're not immediately charging into battle as you might expect. Instead, they're standing in a circle, bowing their heads and holding a final, solemn moment of reflection. You realize this isn't just another pause. This is a moment of ritual. In the midst of all this preparation for war, the samurai take a moment to center themselves. And in this moment, food plays an unexpected yet vital role. Some warriors are drinking a small, delicate cup of green tea, not for the caffeine boost, but for the mental clarity and spiritual calm it brings. The tea isn't about keeping them awake or alert. It's about providing them with a final moment of peace before the chaos begins. Green tea has long been a symbol of purity, simplicity, and focus in Japanese culture. For the samurai, it was more than just a drink. It was a form of meditation, a ritual that calmed the mind and allowed them to enter the battlefield with a steady heart. As the tea flows into their cups, you can see the quiet reverence in their faces. It's as if for a moment they're leaving behind the weight of the world and preparing to enter the fray with clarity. You might think it's strange to have such a calm ritual right before battle. It seems almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? But the more you watch, the more you realize that this is part of what made the samurai so effective. They were masters of balance. They understood that in order to be truly fierce in battle, they needed to maintain their inner calm. They couldn't let the noise of the world distract them. They couldn't let their minds run wild with fear, doubt, or anxiety. No, they needed to stay focused, grounded, and in control. And that's exactly what this simple act of drinking green tea did for them. But the use of tea doesn't stop there. The tea ceremony, a practice that became widespread in samurai culture, was not only about drinking tea, it was a philosophical practice, one that taught patience, discipline, and mindfulness. It's easy to dismiss the tea ceremony as just an elaborate tradition, but for the samurai it was a way of life. Each step, each movement was intentional, a way to connect with the present moment and find peace amid chaos. It wasn't just about drinking tea. It was about drinking it with intention. As the samurai sipped their tea, you notice something else. They're eating small portions of rice and pickled vegetables once again, this time not as a hearty meal, but as a final, symbolic gesture. The rice represents the foundation of their strength. The pickles are a sharp reminder to stay alert, and the small portions are a way to ensure that they're not weighed down by too much food. It's the last nourishment they'll receive before the battle begins, and once again the ritual is as important as the food itself. The symbolism of these small meals before battle is not lost on you. The rice is the constant, the dependable element of their diet, a symbol of their connection to the land and their ancestors. The pickles, with their sharp, intense flavors, serve as a reminder to stay sharp, to stay focused. The simplicity of the meal, the controlled portions, and the quiet act of eating all serve to bring the samurai back to themselves, reminding them that they are in control of their bodies, their minds, and their fate. You can't help but admire the discipline of the samurai. Every single moment, from the meals they eat to the rituals they follow, is designed to prepare them mentally, spiritually, and physically for the battle ahead. They don't just show up to fight, they prepare themselves in mind, body, and spirit, in ways that most warriors never even consider. It's at this moment, as you watch the samurai silently finish their tea and meals, that you begin to understand something profound. For the samurai, food wasn't just about survival. It was a tool, a weapon, a ritual that connected them to their ancestors, to their beliefs, and to their duty. The food they ate before battle wasn't just fuel. It was a key element in their preparation for the ultimate test, a test of their will, their strength, and their honor. And just as you're deep in thought, the sound of drums begins to echo through the air. The battle is about to begin. The samurai stand up, their swords drawn, their faces resolute. They are ready, not because of their physical prowess alone, but because they have prepared themselves in every way possible. They've eaten the food that nourishes both their bodies and their spirits. They've performed the rituals that have sharpened their minds and calmed their hearts. They are warriors, yes, but they are also philosophers, monks and poets, all rolled into one. And it's this blend of strength and spirit that makes them so formidable. The silence that has filled the camp is now replaced by the sounds of marching. The samurai move out, heading toward the battlefield, their bodies strong and their minds clear. They are ready for whatever comes, for they have prepared themselves in ways that transcend the physical. They have nurtured their minds with rituals, their bodies with food, and their spirits with quiet contemplation. As they march off into the distance, you realize something deeply important. The samurai, for all their toughness, understood something that many modern warriors and soldiers might forget. The true strength doesn't come from sheer force. It comes from preparation, from balance, from finding peace even in the most chaotic of times. And as the camp fades into the background and the sound of marching becomes distant, you feel the weight of everything you've just witnessed. The samurai may be preparing for war, but their journey is as much internal as it is external. It's a reminder that how we prepare, not just our bodies but our minds and spirits, shapes who we are when the battle begins. So, as the dust settles and the samurai march onward, you're left with the understanding that the food, the rituals and the philosophy behind them are what truly made the samurai legends. The sun is now fully up, and the quiet tension that hung over the camp earlier has turned into an electric hum of activity. The warriors have finished their meals, and the time for reflection is over. It's time for action. But as you walk through the camp, a strange sense of calm washes over you. Amidst all the hustle, the focus on swords, armor and shields, there's one final moment where the samurai pause, a brief, almost sacred moment of preparation. You stand at the edge of the camp, watching as a warrior kneels down, his face calm and steady. In front of him lies a small bowl of broth. It's not miso soup, not something rich or heavy, no, this is something else. This is a simple, clear broth made from fish or vegetables, perhaps infused with herbs. And yet, as the samurai sips it, you can see the significance behind this humble meal. The broth is light, almost delicate, and it's not designed to fill him up. Instead, it's meant to refresh him, to clear his mind. It's as if this light meal serves as the final act of purification before heading into the chaos of battle. This clear broth, the samurai believe, is the key to maintaining balance in their mind. It's about mental clarity, the kind of clarity that allows a warrior to stay calm, to think through his movements and actions even when surrounded by chaos. As you observe, you start to understand the logic behind this ritual. When you're about to step into something as intense as battle, your mind needs to be sharp. You need to be able to cut through the confusion, to think with a clear head. And that's exactly what this simple broth is for. It's the last step in the samurai's mental preparation. Just as their armor protects their body, this meal protects their mind. It's a strange idea when you think about it. In modern times, we often associate food with indulgence, with pleasure, with comfort. But for the samurai, food was a means of achieving a higher state of being. They didn't eat to satisfy hunger alone. They ate to prepare themselves for something much larger than just a day of fighting. They ate to ensure their body and mind were in perfect alignment, ready to face the unpredictable nature of battle. But that's not to say the samurai were only concerned with mental clarity. No, their meals were also about physical strength. A warrior could have all the clarity in the world, but if his body wasn't up to the challenge, it wouldn't matter. So alongside the lighter meals like the clear broth, the samurai would also rely on more hearty, energy-sustaining foods. In fact, one of the most important sources of energy for a samurai was grilled meat. Though it wasn't consumed in the same way as rice or fish, grilled meats were considered a great source of protein that could help maintain a warrior's strength. While meat wasn't always a regular part of a samurai's diet, before battle, it made a comeback. Samurai would often eat wild boar, deer, or birds cooked over the campfire. The protein from the meat helped to restore energy, fortify the body, and prepare it for the physical demands of combat. It's strange to think that something so simple as grilled meat could hold such importance. But in the world of the samurai, every meal had a purpose. And yet, even with the protein-rich meals, the samurai never forgot the importance of balance. The grilled meat would often be accompanied by a side of vegetables, perhaps some root vegetables or greens. These vegetables, often lightly pickled or simply steamed, provided the samurai with essential vitamins and minerals that would keep their bodies in top shape. It was a reminder that no matter how strong a warrior was, he needed to maintain a balanced diet to remain effective. The contrast between the simple broth and the hearty grilled meat is symbolic of the dual nature of a samurai's life. On one hand, they were fierce, powerful warriors capable of incredible feats of strength. But on the other hand, they were thoughtful, reflective individuals who understood the importance of mental clarity and spiritual balance. These meals, whether light or heavy, sweet or savory, were designed to nourish both the body and the mind. As you reflect on this, a thought begins to form in your mind. The samurai weren't just warriors, they were philosophers. Every aspect of their lives, from their meals to their combat, was governed by a philosophy that sought to balance strength with wisdom, action with reflection. This philosophy is evident in the way they approached food. Every meal wasn't just a practical necessity, it was a conscious choice made to align the body, mind, and spirit for the challenges ahead. And this is where the real beauty of samurai food lies, not in the specific ingredients they chose, but in the philosophy that guided those choices. The samurai didn't just eat to fight, they ate to live. Every meal, every ritual, every bite was part of a larger plan to achieve harmony within themselves, to find peace, even in the midst of war. As the camp bustles around you, the final preparations are underway. The samurai are slipping into their armor. Their swords are being secured to their sides and the tension is palpable. But as you watch them, you can't help but think about the importance of the food they've eaten, the care, the ritual, the purpose behind every meal. It's almost as if the food has become a part of their very being, preparing them for the battle that lies ahead, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. And then, with a final glance at the camp, the samurai begin to gather their weapons and march toward the battlefield. They're ready, not just because they've eaten, but because their food has helped to shape their mindset, their strength, and their resolve. As you watch them disappear into the distance, you realize that you've just witnessed a small piece of what makes the samurai so legendary. Their meals, their rituals, and their philosophy have all come together to create a warrior unlike any other. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts, like choosing what to eat, can have a profound impact on who we become and how we face the challenges of life. As the morning light grows stronger, the camp seems to come alive with a new sense of urgency. The samurai are finishing their final preparations, checking their armor, and sharpening their blades. Yet, amidst all the hustle and bustle, there's something still lingering in the air. The smell of food, of course, but this time it's not just rice, pickles, or fish. There's something else wafting through the camp, something much sweeter. You follow your nose and soon find a small group of warriors sitting around a fire, preparing what looks like a strange dessert. At first, you're not sure what it is. It seems to be some kind of dough, carefully wrapped around a filling. A warrior carefully places each one on the fire, turning them just enough so that they're perfectly browned. Curious, you watch as the samurai continue to work in silence. It's a scene that seems so out of place. Desserts before a battle. But here, it is, and there's a reason for it. These are sweet rice dumplings, and their presence in the camp is more than just a treat for the warrior's sweet tooth. These dumplings, known as kibidango, are made from glutinous rice flour and filled with a mixture of sweet fillings like red bean paste or ground nuts. But beyond the sweetness, there's something more profound happening here. The act of preparing and eating these dumplings is another ritual, another symbol. The sweetness is meant to soothe the soul, to provide comfort before the chaos of battle. It's almost as if the samurai are trying to balance the bitterness of war with a little bit of sweetness, reminding themselves of the simple pleasures in life before they march off into the unknown. But what's even more fascinating is the history behind these sweet treats. Kibi dango were often carried by soldiers not just for their taste but for their practicality. The rice flour made them easy to transport, and their high energy content provided the fuel needed during long journeys or sieges. While most of the food in the camp is designed for immediate energy or spiritual clarity, these sweet dumplings had a more practical purpose: to sustain the samurai over long stretches of time when food might be scarce. Still, it's hard to shake the thought that there's something almost contradictory about the idea of eating sweets before heading into battle. The samurai, after all, are known for their discipline, their stoicism, their readiness for battle. Yet here they are, savoring something sweet, something indulgent. But perhaps that's the point. Maybe in the midst of all the preparation, the tension and the uncertainty of war, the samurai needed something to remind them of life's simpler, gentler moments. A little sweetness, a moment of respite, could help restore balance to their mind before they plunged into the brutal chaos of combat. And that brings us to a key idea in samurai philosophy: wa, or harmony. Everything about their existence was centered around finding balance between the warrior's duty and his personal spirit, between physical strength and mental clarity. Even their meals, their rituals, and their food choices reflected this pursuit of harmony. The sweet rice dumplings, sitting in contrast to the salty, sharp flavors of the pickles and miso soup, represent this balance perfectly. Just as they could be brutal in battle, the samurai also understood the importance of calm and peace. They understood that to be fully prepared for war, they had to first prepare themselves spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. And sometimes that meant allowing themselves small comforts, even something as simple as a sweet bite before the storm. But the question arises, did these small moments of sweetness truly make a difference in the heat of battle? Could a single rice dumpling calm a warrior's nerves or sharpen his focus when he was staring down his enemies? Some historians are skeptical. Others believe that these rituals, eating sweets, drinking tea, and savoring food, were the samurai's way of remaining human in the midst of violence. These small comforts helped them stay grounded, helping them retain their humanity even as they prepared for war. Yet, no one can deny that food played an enormous role in the samurai's mindset. From rice to fish, pickles to sweets, each meal was part of a greater whole. The samurai weren't just eating to fill their bellies. They were feeding their souls, fortifying their minds and reminding themselves of the traditions and the history they carried with them into battle. You can't help but marvel at how these warriors approached every detail of their lives, even the simplest meal. It's clear that nothing was left to chance. Everything, down to the last rice dumpling, was meticulously chosen to ensure that they were ready for whatever lay ahead. In a sense, their food wasn't just fuel. It was a symbol of their commitment to the Bushido code, to their honor, and to the long history of warriors who had come before them. As the last of the sweet rice dumplings are consumed, you watch as the warriors finish their meal in silence. They stand up, wipe their hands on their sleeves, and begin gathering their gear. There's no celebration, no joy in their faces. The battle looms large, and they're ready. But in that brief moment of indulgence, you see something remarkable, a reminder that even the fiercest warriors need a moment of sweetness before they face the darkness. It's a delicate balance, one that allows them to step into the fray with clarity and focus. And as they begin to file out, you're left with the lingering taste of that sweetness in the air, the ritual, the food, the balance. It all comes together in a way that's almost poetic. For these warriors, the journey isn't just about fighting, it's about preparing themselves for whatever comes next, in every sense of the word. As the samurai depart for battle, the atmosphere shifts. Once again, the food, the rituals, and the philosophy that surrounded each meal have given you a deeper understanding of the samurai's world. But there's still much more to explore. Their approach to food, to sustenance, was so much more than just a means of survival. It was a way to connect with their history, their spirits, and their traditions. Get comfortable, because we've only scratched the surface. There's more to uncover in the world of the samurai and their rituals, and you'll soon discover how food played an even larger role in shaping their destinies. The light has now fully broken through the trees, casting long shadows over the camp. You can hear the rhythmic sounds of swords being sharpened and the occasional murmurs of warriors discussing the coming battle. The morning meal is complete, but the samurai aren't finished with their preparations. You might think that after breakfast, there's nothing else to consider, but as you wander through the camp, something else catches your attention: the peculiar way in which they store their food. Near the edge of the camp, a few warriors are gathered around a series of large wooden barrels. It looks like they're preparing for something, but what could they possibly be storing now? As you approach, the smell hits you. It's strong, pungent, and unmistakable. These barrels aren't just filled with any kind of food, they're filled with something that seems unusual for a pre-battle meal: pickled vegetables. But not the typical ones you might find at your local grocery store. No, these are pickled in a way that's very specific to samurai culture. It's not just about preservation, it's about enhancing strength and mental clarity. These pickles are made with a variety of ingredients: ginger, garlic, and sometimes even seaweed. The idea behind it is that the sourness and sharp flavors would cleanse the mouth and prepare the body for the battle to come. In a sense, the tartness of the pickles mimics the sharpness of the katana, cutting through the fog of fatigue and sharpening the senses for the fight ahead. You watch as a samurai slices a pickle and places it carefully next to his rice, taking a deep breath before eating it. It's a moment of focus, of centering himself, before stepping into the chaos that is sure to follow. But what's even more fascinating is the belief behind these pickles. The samurai didn't just see food as fuel, they believed that it could affect their spirit. They saw food as something that could either strengthen or weaken their resolve, depending on what they consumed. And with pickles, they were intentionally choosing something with a sharp, intense flavor, a kind of mental wake-up call. It's almost as if they were trying to jolt their system into awareness, to cut through the drowsiness that might settle in after their rice and fish breakfast. As you watch them, you notice that their meals are always small, never too much. This isn't about gorging themselves before a fight, it's about preparing in a disciplined, measured way. There's no overeating here, no indulgence. It's all about balance and focus. You can almost hear the unspoken philosophy. A samurai warrior must be in control of his body and mind at all times. Overeating could lead to sluggishness, a loss of clarity, both of which are dangerous in a battle. This ritual of pickling, of selecting specific ingredients for mental sharpness, leads you to wonder, what other strange foods did they consume in preparation? You begin to learn that the samurai weren't just eating for the sake of sustenance, they were eating for a deeper purpose. Many of the ingredients they used were believed to have healing properties or powers that could influence their physical and mental states. Take, for example, the humble miso soup. It's a dish that seems so simple today, yet for the samurai, it was rich in symbolism and substance. The miso soup was often served as a final meal before heading out to battle, but its significance went far beyond nourishment. The warmth of the soup, combined with its savory, salty flavor, was thought to calm the mind and prepare the samurai's spirit for what lay ahead. It wasn't just about the physical energy it provided. It was about the feeling of comfort and clarity that came from drinking it. And more than that, it was about the ritual. The act of sipping the warm broth was a way of settling the mind and focusing the will. But the most unusual part? The samurai believed that miso soup could also offer protection. Sounds strange, right? But in the context of the samurai's deeply spiritual life, it makes sense. Just as their armor protected their bodies, they believed that certain foods, like miso soup, could protect their spirits. The saltiness was said to act as a barrier against negative energy, a shield for the mind, just as their katana would shield them in combat. And then there were the strange medicinal teas they drank, a little bitter, a little earthy, but always with purpose. These teas were made from various herbs that were believed to boost focus and resilience. A few samurai, particularly those who practiced Zen, would sip on these teas as a way to meditate and ground themselves before battle. Imagine it, a warrior, sitting cross-legged, sipping tea and clearing his mind, all while knowing that within hours he would be marching into battle. But of course, not all the meals were so peaceful. Some of the food preparations had an element of superstition behind them. You hear one warrior quietly whispering to another as he prepares a small dish of seaweed and rice. "This will protect me from harm." He isn't talking about the seaweed's nutritional value. He's talking about the belief that it holds spiritual significance. In his eyes, the seaweed represents the strength of the ocean, an unyielding force that can carry him through the fight. It's at moments like these that you realize, for the samurai, food wasn't just something to eat. It was something that could influence their very fate. Every meal, every ritual, was part of a much larger philosophy, one that saw food as a key to mental clarity, focus, and spiritual resilience. And then, just as you're processing everything, you hear the sound of footsteps behind you. A samurai approaches, holding a small bowl of food. He looks at you, his face unreadable, before offering you the dish. It's a small gesture, but one filled with meaning. You understand now, every meal, no matter how simple or small, has a story. And that story, just like the warrior, carries with it centuries of tradition and belief. As the day begins to shift, you find yourself reflecting on the meals you've seen the samurai prepare. There's something powerful in how they approach food, not as a simple means of survival, but as a key component of their preparation for battle, both mentally and physically. Let's continue, because this journey is just beginning. More food, more rituals, and even more about what made these warriors tick are yet to be uncovered. As you settle into the quiet rhythm of the camp, the first rays of light begin to creep over the horizon. The samurai finish their breakfast, their faces calm, their eyes unwavering. For them, this morning meal is more than just sustenance. It's a ritual, a preparation for the battle ahead. But if you think that's all they ate, then you're in for a surprise, because hidden among their typical meals, there are some rather unexpected choices. We've all heard of warriors eating protein-rich meals, right? Well, in the samurai world, it wasn't just about fueling the body. There was a belief that certain foods could give a warrior a psychological edge. It's not just about what you're eating, it's about what it symbolizes, what it can do to sharpen the mind and prepare the spirit. Now, as the sun rises a little higher, you notice something strange happening. A small group of samurai gathers around a wooden table, hands brushing against a collection of mysterious-looking ingredients. On the table are several different types of fish, dried, salted, and preserved. It's strange to see so many of them, almost like a mini fish market right here in the camp. You might even wonder why fish. After all, it's not exactly the kind of meal you'd expect to see just before a grueling battle. But for these warriors, the answer is simple. They believed that eating fish before a fight could purify both their bodies and their minds. But this wasn't just any fish. It was dried fish, a special kind, one that was believed to carry the spirit of the sea and could bring about an inner calmness that would be essential for battle. But that's not all. Right beside the fish, you notice a dish that looks surprisingly familiar. Rice. Yes, rice, again. But this isn't your everyday rice. The samurai preferred a certain kind of rice, one that was not only a nutritional powerhouse but also had a symbolic meaning. This rice was more than just food. It was a representation of their connection to the earth, to their ancestors, and to the strength that came from generations of warriors who had come before them. Interestingly, some samurai also turned to a rather odd food before they faced battle: soybeans. Yes, you heard that right. While many might think of soybeans as a staple in modern-day diets, the samurai had their own way of incorporating these beans into their pre-battle meals. Why? Because soybeans were considered a symbol of resilience and strength. Eating them was believed to prepare their bodies to endure the battle ahead, giving them a little extra stamina for what was to come. As you watch the samurai carefully prepare their meals, something strikes you. They weren't just consuming food, and they were consuming rituals that had been passed down through generations. The simple act of eating was so much more than just filling their stomachs. It was a way to honor their ancestors, to embrace the traditions that had been instilled in them from childhood. The food they ate wasn't just about taste or nutrition, it was about grounding themselves in their history and in the very essence of their warrior spirit. Now, you might be thinking, this is all very interesting, but did it actually make a difference in battle? Well, the truth is, historians still argue about whether these meals truly had any impact on the outcome of battles. Some believe that the samurai were just like any other soldiers, using food as a means to keep their energy up before a fight. But others argue that the psychological effects of these meals, the rituals surrounding them, could have played a much bigger role in the samurai's ability to maintain focus and composure in the heat of battle. Some scholars still debate the influence of food on the samurai's psyche. Could something as simple as a dish of rice or dried fish have been the key to their success? Were these meals part of a larger psychological strategy designed to calm their nerves, focus their minds, and prepare them for the mental and physical demands of battle? It's a question that remains open, with no clear answer in sight. But one thing is certain, food was more than just fuel for the samurai. It was a critical part of their preparations, mentally and physically. And just as you're pondering, there's a thought crosses your mind. Is it possible that these small meals, these carefully prepared dishes, played a role in shaping the outcome of the battles fought by these legendary warriors? Could a single bowl of rice or a dried fish have been the thing that gave them the edge they needed? As you watch them finish their meals, the question lingers, just like the soft crackle of the fires in the distance. You realize that, perhaps, food was more than just a necessity for survival. For the samurai, it was part of a larger, more intricate ritual. A ritual that extended far beyond the battlefield, one that was designed to give them a psychological advantage. And in the end, isn't that what made the samurai so formidable? Their belief in tradition, in rituals, and in the power of the mind, just as much as the power of their sword. That's the end of Section 2. You've traveled deeper into the samurai's world, understanding the significance of their meals, both practical and symbolic. The food may have been simple, but the beliefs tied to it were profound. Stay with me as we continue exploring more about these warriors, the foods they relied on, and the deeper meanings behind each choice. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something a little bit unusual but fascinating nonetheless. Imagine yourself back in the 16th century, in the dim light of a samurai camp just before dawn. The air is thick with anticipation, the kind of buzz you only get before something big happens, the final moments before battle. But before these warriors can march off to war, there's something that they need to do first. Eat. But it's not the kind of meal you'd expect. You see, samurai didn't just eat anything before battle. No, they had specific foods to prepare. Them foods that not only nourished their bodies, but also served a symbolic purpose. You'll be surprised at what these warriors ate and the reasoning behind it. Now you're probably thinking, how could anyone possibly eat before heading off to battle? Well, don't worry. I'm not going to make you try it. Trust me, you wouldn't survive their meals anyway. But here's the kicker. While we might grab a coffee or a bagel before heading out for our workday, samurai took a much more strategic approach to their pre-battle meals. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment below letting me know where you're listening from. I'm always curious about the locations you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As the camp settles into silence, you hear the crackling of small fires. The soft whisper of flames licking at the logs blends with the subtle hum of the wind as it brushes through the trees. It's still early before the sun has fully broken over the horizon, and the samurai are preparing for the battle ahead. But you, standing among them, might notice something surprising. They're eating, and not just any food. The warriors are taking a break from their final preparations to have a bite to eat. But this is no casual snack, no bowl of instant noodles or quick sandwich. The samurai have a carefully selected meal to fuel their minds and bodies before they step onto the battlefield. It's not just about the food, it's about the belief that what you consume can influence how you fight. Now you may be wondering what exactly they're munching on. Are they snacking on rice cakes and pickled vegetables, or perhaps some hearty miso soup to start the day? It turns out there's a surprising twist in what these elite warriors relied on to give them strength and focus. The meal often begins with rice, simple, humble rice. You might be thinking, Rice? That's it? But there's more to it than meats. The eye. For centuries, rice has been a staple in Japanese culture, and samurai warriors weren't any different. They relied on the slow-burning energy that rice provided to keep them alert, energized, and steady during the fight. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just regular rice. No, it was a specific kind of rice, the kind that would provide not only energy, but also a deep sense of connection to their ancestors and their traditions. There's something symbolic about rice that resonates deeply within the samurai's code, the Bushido. And it wasn't just rice. Alongside their meal, the samurai would often consume dried fish or other protein-rich foods, like beans and small game. The idea was to prepare their bodies for what lay ahead. The fish, for example, would provide protein and sustain their energy. But more importantly, it was believed to purify the body and mind, allowing the warriors to focus on the task at hand. And let's not forget the sake, that little kick of fermented rice wine. Before you get too excited, I should mention that they didn't drink it for fun, as we might do with a glass of wine at dinner. For the samurai, sake had a more profound role. It was meant to calm their nerves, to create a sense of unity and focus before battle. It's funny to think about, isn't it? Sipping a little sake, the drink that's so often associated with celebration, before marching off to war. But for the samurai, it was about grounding themselves and entering battle with a clear head. As you watch, you notice that the warriors eat in silence. There's no chatter or laughter. They're deeply focused, preparing not only their bodies, but their spirits as well. After all, the meal is a ritual, and rituals are a significant part of what makes the samurai so fascinating. The act of eating wasn't just to fill their stomachs. It was to prepare them mentally and spiritually for the battle to come. So you can almost hear the rhythmic sound of chopsticks tapping against the bowl, the occasional crunch of dried fish, and the gentle swish of sake being poured. Each bite is a reminder of the samurai's purpose, to fight not only for their lord, but for their honor, for their ancestors, and for a way of life that transcended the physical. And just as you're beginning to understand the deeper meaning, behind these meals a thought lingers in the back of your mind. Was it enough? Did this simple meal, a small ritual of rice and fish, truly prepare them for the chaos that awaited? Some historians would argue that it was more than enough, that this quiet, focused meal was all they needed to steel their nerves. Others, however, still debate whether such rituals truly had an impact on their performance on the battlefield. But one thing is clear, the samurai were not just warriors. They were men of discipline, men who believed deeply in the power of rituals, in the small things that could shape the course of history. The first section wraps up here. You're already deep into the world of samurai, witnessing their pre-battle rituals and the thought that went into their meals. The story will continue, but before we proceed, take a moment to settle in. Let the sounds of the fire and the quiet, stillness of the camp seep into your mind. Next, we'll dive deeper into the specific foods that fueled their journey to war. Keep your curiosity alive as we explore what these warriors consumed and how it shaped their battles and their lives.